Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, today we're going to try to get this rear end fitted to Ruby's chassis. Now, this is not the same rear end we pulled out of the car that we rolled the chassis up on. That rear end I shortened up about 3 1/4 inches on each side for a total of 6 1/2 inches when I was like 19 or 20 years old. I wanted the shortest rear end and the big fattest tires with the deepest rims. Now, that was with drum brakes. Now, with disc brakes, it's simply not going to work. It's just way too short. The disc brakes, have, mechanism for the emergency brake, the calipers, everything, so it's just not going to clear. So that one's out, this one's in. So it's kind of plan B on that. This rear end came out of the donor car. It's a BOP rear end, so it's exactly the same. It's just not shortened. It's only a 10 bolt. It's not the strongest one you can get, that's for sure, but I'm not going to be drag racing the car, so I'm not too worried about it. So we've got some clearance issues. We got to, set up the bars. We got to get everything figured out and how low we can get this rear end up inside there and make sure we're still going to have good clearance. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and do a quick update on the Pontiac 428 I dropped off at the machine shop. Okay guys, quick update on the Pontiac 428 we're going to be running in Project Ruby. So I dropped off the crankshaft and the block off to the machine shop and they cleaned it, checked it, magnafluxed it, everything looked great. The bores on the cylinders all look fantastic. The worst one was only 6 thousandths out of factory spec. So we can go 30 thousandths, no problem there. The cylinder deck was had a couple little low spots, so that they're going to go ahead and machine that. And the crankshaft looked perfect. It was all factory spec and he could still see the factory polishing marks on the crankshaft. So that engine was well taken care of or very low miles. So we're looking really good there. We did pick up a set of Eagle rods for it, some Keith Black pistons. And I just heard today that the crankshaft and flywheel have been balanced. So we're looking really good there. So I'm going to be picking this stuff up here really soon. I don't know where I'm going to put it with all the grinding and welding around here, but I'll seal it up and find some place to stash it. I don't think Trish would mind some more car parts in the house. She's a car girl, so I think that's going to work out. So we'll find a safe place to put this stuff. But that's an update. Really good news on that engine. So I don't know when we're going to put it together, but we got to get this chassis rolling first before we can do that. All right, let's take a quick look at this axle. So it is a BOP axle, Buick, Olds, Pontiac. And it's basically identical to the other one except a few slight differences. Now I stripped it down and I want to have it hot tank, but if they had a hot tank, they certainly didn't want to put it in there. And most guys don't have hot tanks anymore, they just have jet washes. So I grinned to bear it and used a lot of degreaser in the pressure washer and just got covered. But I got it pretty clean and went after it with a sanding disc and everything. So it's actually looking pretty good. So there's one small difference in this rear end. And it's this right here. You guys can see, if you see that, see how they put a dent right there, so it'll have more clearance at the frame. So that will come in pretty handy because this thing's going to be riding up, this distance isn't going to be very big. So when we hit bumps, we don't want to bottom out, and that's going to give me that much more, which should come in handy. Now we do need to figure out, get it centered. We need to figure out how far this can travel up towards the chassis and the bottom of the body of the car before things start hitting. And once we figure that out, then we can figure out what we need to do, like right here. So you can see right where the pinion is. I don't have enough travel right there. That will hit long before that hits. So let me go ahead and get some cardboard. I've been doing a little arts and crafts here, so let me lay some stuff out here and I'll bring you right back. All right, since we don't have a body on the chassis, we're gonna get a little creative here. So the brown cardboard represents the wheel well, the tub, or whatever you want to call it, and that's the height of it on the body. I went ahead and measured, I went out to the car, and that should be pretty much spot on. And then the white cardboard here, of course, is the wheel and the tire. So I just cut a hub, wheel studs, and pushed it on there, put the axle back in. So the distance from the top of the tire to the underside of the wheel well or tub, whatever you want to call it, is 4 inches. And then we have exactly, right now, 4 inches between the top of the axle tube to the bottom of the frame. So that is obviously max travel without a bump stop or anything. So that's the most we can do. The problem is we only have 2 inches of clearance right over here. So we do need to modify that cross brace and give ourselves another 2 inches. And obviously we want a little bit of room to spare just in case. So I think that's going to be one of our first steps. We still have to figure out instant center. I don't want any roll steering. There's a lot of stuff to figure out on this thing. But I think the first step we want to do is go ahead and get our clearance right there. Okay guys, we're getting into the tall weeds now. It's been about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours since I picked up this camera earlier, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. So I got the rear end, I put the upper and lower control arms, I picked those up from CPP. The uppers are adjustable, they have spherical rod ends on the body side. And so I got that set. I needed to get it set. I've got it, I think, at right height. They're pretty close to it. Then I need to figure out my instant center. I won't go into instant center. I understand a small amount of it, but basically it's the angle of the upper arm and the angle of the lower arm where they meet. And you can see the level and the string. It gets me right about there. And I understand from a drag car, I'm not a drag brakes guy, that's a pretty good instant center actually. For a street car, I think it needs to be farther forward, but it's not horrible. So, I mean, the worst, it would be behind the car, which you absolutely don't want. So we're not looking too bad there. Now I have the pinion angle set at 2 degrees. I screwed up and did not measure when the engine and transmission were in it. I did not measure the slope of the engine and transmission so I could match it. But 2 degrees is a good starting point. I can always adjust it because these are adjustable, and we'll have to figure that out a little bit later, but this is a good starting point. The big problem we're having right now, if you guys look right there, that chalk mark on the frame is the center of the wheel well, and we can clearly see that we do not have the axle in the center at right height. So we're off by 1.5 inches, and that's the product of lowering the car. The swing of the arm pushed it back, and so, you know, we have to adjust for that. We're going to work on that later. For right now, I'm going to do what I know I need to do. I've got about, let's say, if I put a 1 inch bump stop in there, that gives me 4 inches of travel till I bottom out. And we only have 2 inches right there before the pinion would actually hit that cross brace right there. So we do need to make a cut right there. I need to do some work. These torque boxes where those arms connect, we need to reinforce that. And they're down at about 12.5 degrees, which I understand is a pretty good slope for a drag car, but for this car, I think it may induce a little bit of problems, so we may want to raise those up a little bit. And I think I can get away with just drilling another hole and raising those up just a little bit. It'll give me some adjustability, you know, once I start putting the car together anyway. So, but for right now, I know what I for sure need to do, and that is make room for that pinion to rise up in there. And this all comes about because I'm lowering the car so much. Normally, you just lower a car and you don't think much about it, but it's all apart, so it's time to do it right. Okay guys, having this frame on this homemade jig has helped out a ton already. Just laying out these lines, everything's level in both planes, so it just makes everything so much easier. So I'm really happy I went ahead and did that. Now, I went ahead and marked the edge of the housing right here. These lines represent that, that's the center of it. So we kind of need to carve this out to give us the room. This is how much more room we need to make sure that's not going to run into it at full compression. So what I did, I dug around, I found this piece of well casing. I have no idea where it came from. I think it was just laying on the property, possibly cut off the top of my well casing all those years ago. But it's plenty thick enough, and I think it'll work out good. We can come in just like this. It'll slide, you know, just like that. And what we'll do is we'll end up having it slide all the way through, and so it kind of replaces this piece right here, and then we can actually put a lip on it. I think what I want to do is probably box this in to try to reinforce some of this area. Since we are going to make the profile a lot shorter right here, I think that'll help. So I guess the next step, I need to clean this up, get a good cut on there, and then we'll hold it up here and then mark it out. We are going to lose this hole. It wasn't used for anything. This hole is where the brake line went through, and then the soft line went over to the rear end. We're going to have to kind of rethink that a little bit for 2 reasons. One, we are going to be really short on space on the top to the body, and that stuck up a little bit. We don't want that, you know, obviously the brake line smashing into the underside of the body. And we can relocate that, you know, over here or something. It's not a huge deal. So let me go ahead and get this cleaned up, We'll get this marked and we'll start cutting that. All right, guys, I went ahead and cut a plug and welded that hole. We're going to cut right through. I'd rather do it first than try to have to do it after we make the cut. So I've got the line chalked out. I don't have the lines underneath marked. We're just going to kind of pierce and go that way and pierce and go this way, and then use where we stopped on the other side to figure out where we're going to cut next. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Best Arc machine they sent me. The little thing seems to be working pretty good, so let's see how it does right here. All right, pretty good. Let's switch around the other side and see if we can make those cuts. We're gonna have to clean up right where that punched out hole. It has like a little lip on there, so let's see what we can do over there on the other side. All right, hope I know what I'm doing. All right, I'm going to do it has to get a little trimming here and there, a little grinding, and I'll bring you back when it's fitted in. All right, let's see how it fits. Looks pretty good. Pretty tight around there. I put a square up here and I think it's laying pretty straight, so I'm pretty happy about that. It's looking good on this side as well. Pretty tight seam, nothing I can't weld in, and that'll add a lot of strength through here. I think what we want to do though is probably plate this in right here just to get this, added strength, because obviously we took, several inches out here and we don't want this thing to bend at all. So I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and chalk this piece out, and we'll figure out, where it needs to be cut, and then we'll get that fitted up inside there, get it cleaned up, get it tacked into place. Okay, we got that cut and cleaned. I threw it in some muriatic acid for a few minutes. That seemed to clean it up really nice. It didn't spring too much when I cut it, so that's pretty good. It's a little sprung, but that's just going to help us hold it up in here. But it's actually looking pretty good right there. Just got to fine tune it a little bit and get it tacked into place, get a clamp on it. But it's feeling pretty good all around. I'm going to rotate that a little bit. So it looks like it's going to work out. It may stick out a little bit. We're just going to grind it flush once we get it tacked into place, and we'll get a nice bead through here. But yeah, I think that's going to work out really nice. Pretty happy that worked out. Glad I had that piece of weld casing. Let me get the welder over here. We'll get it fitted, tacked in place, prepped, and get it welded. All right, let's get this tacked before it moves again. Okay, we got that all welded and ground. I just love welding and grinding overhead. Boy, it's so much fun. But it's got to be done. So it's looking really good. I'm quite sure that that's going to be plenty strong enough. We're going to go ahead and box this in. So the idea is going to be to go from here straight up. We won't go to this lip, but we'll just kind of just go straight up from here, straight up to here, and then have it weld in here. But we have no way to terminate it over here. We have this nice plate for the torque box right here for the upper control arm, but I think we need to add something like this and add it onto that shape that they've stamped in there. So let me get a piece of paper or cardboard or something, and we'll see if we can't make a pattern to bring this out, so when we bring that plate over, we can weld it right along there on both sides, and then weld it up through here, and that'll box this whole thing in. Any weakness that we cause from cutting that big C out of there, that should go ahead and take care of it. All right, we got a pattern made. I went ahead and took a piece of 1/2 inch MDF and I just bolted it through the bolt hole there. So it gave me the plane I need to operate on. So these should be running parallel. And then I just kind of whittling away on a piece of paper. I had to add some back with tape, but because I screwed up. But I got it eventually. So that fits right up inside there just like that. So we can cut it two pieces. Well, I'm going to test the other side. Hopefully it's the same shape. And we can weld that down inside there once we get a piece cut. And then we have to come up with a plate that'll go from here all the way across and then terminate on the other side. But that's looking pretty good. All right, guys, luckily both sides are exactly the same, so I was able to use the same pattern to make two. I got them both made up, and it's looking pretty good. Look at that. So I'll put that piece of wood back in here to make sure this is perfectly flush across here. We'll get it tacked, move it out of the way, and then make sure it's good, and then get it welded up. All right, we got it up in there. I did put a shim between the board and the plate just to move it over a little bit. There's no reason to try to make it, exact dimension between the bolt holes here. It's just a brace. So let's get this tacked up and pull that out of the way and see how it looks. All right, that feels good. It's just a little bit in from that, which is perfect. I like it. All right, I'm gonna get this welded up. We'll get the other one on, and then we gotta start figuring out how to make this plate. All right, that looks pretty good. I got it as far as I can. It's just hard to reach in there. I really don't want to weld in here because I can't really get in there to grind, so we're going to call that good right there. Okay guys, we've got that all welded up on both sides. Kind of hard to get down inside there, but my welds look pretty good for an amateur. So I just realized something right now. Now I wanted to put a plate across here and box that in, but you can see the bottom. She ain't so straight. So we're gonna figure that out. But my friend Justin came through. He had a piece of 10 gauge, a drop over there. He had his son cut me a piece, and so we have something to work with. So we're gonna have to make some sort of pattern to kind of make that arch, and then I don't know what we're gonna do on that bottom. Give me a minute to think about it. We could probably pull it in little by little because there is a lip here. So if we got it tacked, we could always just clamp it over and pull it in, and then tack it all the way around. So give me a second to figure that out, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, the magic of CAD, cardboard aided design. We've got the template. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that piece of 10 gauge out, and then we're going to figure out how to address that not being straight on the bottom. All right, we got that 10 gauge cut, and it's fitted on there. A lot of back and forth to get that upper part trimmed, and the sides matching and everything. So, but we are looking really good. Now we just need to address that, this brace, how it goes in and out. So I've got some chalk lines right where each bend needs to be. So the first one, it needs to go in, and then this one needs to come back out flat, and then that one needs to just fine tune it a little bit to fit on there. So I've got a little vise brake. It's about a 6-inch job. I think it'll do 10 gauge, I'm not sure. But I won't show any of that. It's just me wrestling that thing over there on the vise. I'm gonna go super slow, small bends until I get it to fit. So I'll bring you back, hopefully when we got that fitted on there, really nice. All right, well your boy Mark gets lucky every once in a while. Let's take a look underneath. It looks pretty good. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Came out pretty nice. Glad to get that fitted on there really nice so we can weld it nice and clean. All right, we're getting really close to boxing this in, so I welded a couple of 3/8 nuts on there so we could bolt up through there and hang the exhaust. I don't know if it's going to line up with that, but it couldn't hurt. Then I welded in any unused holes except this one here and here, and I did put a couple of holes in the plate here because the brake line needs to come through here, and then the flex line will go over to the rear end. So we're looking pretty good. One of the last things I want to do is drill a little drain hole, about a 1/4-inch hole here and here. Everything slopes that way, so any moisture gets in there, it will drip out because we will full weld this throughout here. And then we need to spray this all underneath here and here with cold galvanizing spray to go ahead and protect it. And once that's dry, we can weld it up. All right, guys, got it clamped up, ready for tacking. Once I get it tacked, I can start pushing in on some of these other areas. A little bit of a gap right there on each side. Kind of trimmed it a little too far, but other than that, it's looking really good. It's all painted up inside. So let's just get this done as fast as possible. All right, I'll let that cool. I'm gonna grind it, I'll bring it back, we'll take a look at it. All right guys, got all that ground. Had to touch up a couple of welds, but it's looking pretty good. I got the rear end in there, testing it out, and that is just about as high up in the chassis as it will ever go without hitting the bottom of the body. So you can see right there, there's probably another ½ inch it can go up, but I doubt it. We're gonna have it go up that high. So our gap right there, it looks pretty good. So the bump stop will stop it just perfectly. You can tell the rear end's still not centered in the wheel well, but we'll worry about that later. But I'm really happy to get this done, although I did screw up, and I screwed up pretty big time. Now, it's not going to be a huge deal. We're still going to have clearance, but if you look right here, I wish somebody would have yelled through the camera and told me I was screwing up. So the pinion is not centered over our new cutout. Now the other one was centered. What I did was, you guys saw me, I marked where the pinion was, marked it up on the chassis, but I didn't follow those lines. I had a center line on that, on the chassis, and I inadvertently put the well casing up to that line instead of the other line, marked it and cut it. So I should have measured twice, cut once, but we're still gonna have plenty of clearance. I'm not worried about it. If there is a little bit of a problem over here, I will cut that out and we'll move it. You know, we got to do what we got to do, but I don't think it's going to be an issue once we get the I can get a yoke on there, make sure everything's going to clear just fine. I'm not going to worry about it, but yeah, not happy with myself on that, but it happens. Could be worse. Could have done something real bad, but that's more cosmetic, I guess, than anything if we don't have a clearance issue there. But really happy to get this done. Man, a lot of grinding, just like always. Okay guys, that wraps up this video on making room for that pinion to rise up as the car is lowered. Even though we screwed up, I'm pretty sure we still have plenty of clearance, and if not, I'll fix it. It's one of those things that, you know, I was an idiot. I can't believe I did it, and that's going to bug me for a while, guys. I'm going to carry that around. But if it looks like it's going to be an issue, I will fix it. I'm not going to just, you know, hope for the best. So, but we got the upper control arm torque boxes, got those reinforced, so that's really good. Got the plate in there, so, you know, because we made a pretty good cutout there, and we got all that re-strengthened, so that's looking good. I think the next step will be working on the lower control arms, getting this around where it belongs. The torque boxes there, we're going to have to build those from scratch. Possibly cut the rear end apart here and get where those mount as well moved, but that'll be for another video. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell and drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you on the next one.